Hi, my love. Welcome back to the podcast. This is an episode that's sort of a part 2 from last week's episode, although it doesn't matter if you didn't hear last week's, you can dive into this one first because they're not really going in order. But last week's episode was all about attachment and what that actually means when we're manifesting and how it gets in the way of manifesting when we are too attached to our desires, meaning that we are too needy. We are desperate for them. We tell ourselves, I'm not going to be okay unless I have this thing, where we're clinging to it. We're holding it really tightly. The energy does not allow space for it to come through. So I talked about it. I dived deep into attachment on last week's episode, and today what I want to do is actually answer the questions that came in around it. So I'm going to be answering listener questions about attachment. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, the first question that came in is, how do I balance wanting something deeply while staying unattached to the outcome? Okay, such a good question. And actually, what I'm going to recommend may be something that you wouldn't expect, but I'll tell you, it's been really helpful for me. And as I've coached many, many people, I've seen the shift that happens when they move out of wanting energy. So this idea of wanting deeply, right? So that is helpful initially. Wanting something or deciding we want something deeply is super helpful in step 1 of your manifestation process. In the step where you're clarifying what you want and creating a vision for yourself, where you're deciding all the things that you want to manifest, what you want to create in this lifetime, or what you want to create in this next season of your life, or what it's about, right? Getting into wanting energy is great. And I would say amp it up when you're in step 1. Amp up desire. Tune into, what does my soul want? What does my spirit want? What do I want to create? What do I feel called to manifest, right? Amp up the wanting there. But what I'm probably guessing, right, for you who sent this question in, is you're not in step 1 anymore. Because it sounds like you're saying, how do I balance wanting something deeply? And the thing is, I would recommend after step 1, after creating that vision, to actually move out of wanting energy. Because when we want something deeply, we're sort of in desperation. And especially when we stay in that, right? After you've initially set that intention, if you keep wanting it and keep wanting it and want it deeply and want it really, 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 really badly, it's sort of the same as attachment, right? I'm not saying you don't desire it, you don't want it, but if you continuously think, I want it, I want it, I want it, you know what you are energetically putting out there into the universe is, I don't have it, I don't have it, I don't have it, it's not here yet, it's not here yet, it's not here yet, right? Which is actually scarcity. So I know that sounds kind of wild, but what I would practice is get yourself out of long-term wanting energy and instead practice calibrating your energy, meaning your thoughts and your feelings, to the version of you who already has it, right? So think of the version of you who already has that thing. How do they think? How do they show up in life? How do they feel? What are the feelings that you have if you already had that thing? If you already had it, you're not in wanting anymore, right? And that is how you're going to attract it, is when you get into the vibrational frequency of already having it, or knowing that it's coming, believing that it's on its way. That is a very different energy from wanting. So my encouragement is actually stop wanting it so badly, because I would say that's probably the same as attachment, right? When we want something really deeply, we're saying it's not here yet. When what we want to do is actually get into the frequency of, I am good now, into sufficiency, into abundance now, and into creating that thing and enjoying it. And you can stay committed to that thing, right? Of course, you can stay committed to it. You can take action towards it, but I wouldn't do it from want. I would do it from it's on its way. I'm creating it. I'm excited to have it, right? Anticipating it, being excited that it's on its way, already feeling like it's here, already starting to show up as the version of you who already has it. That's going to help you manifest it much faster. All right. Such a good question though. Okay. Next question is, does non-attachment mean I stop taking action towards my goals? Oh my gosh, 100% not. Here's the thing. Non-attachment does not mean giving up. It does not mean let go of the whole thing altogether. What non-attachment means is it's more of letting go of the idea that having that thing is the only thing that's going to make you okay, or you're not fully okay. You can't fully breathe until you have that thing. It's kind of like letting go of clinging. That's what non-attachment is. And we can create and we can show up and we can take action without clinging, right? So think about something in your life that you've just been excited for. Not that you feel like you have to have, or you're not going to be okay if you don't have it, but something that you've created in your life that you've just been excited about, or you just knew you wanted it, so you went out there and you created it, but not from a clingy, desperate place. You still took action, didn't you? Yeah, of course, because action is not actually driven by desperation. Action isn't driven by attachment, right? Or even if it is driven by attachment, it's usually not the most aligned action, right? So what I would do is I would get into the energy of creating or committed or playfulness. And from that place, take action from there, right? And you know what I've actually found that's really, really wild is that when I let go of attachment and I just surrender and I just believe I'm going to be okay no matter what, like, of course, there's still that natural desire to create that thing within me. Like, that doesn't go away. That innate desire to have that thing does not go away. But I'm not in wanting energy. I'm not in clingy energy. And I'm not in controlling, I need this thing energy. And when I let go of that and clear out all that attachment energy, what I actually find is that I take way more action because I'm still committed to it, but it's from a different place. It's like an I want it, but I don't need it. Or let me say that again. It's from an energy of I'm manifesting it, but I don't need it to be okay, right? It's like I'm going to be okay no matter what, but I'm still creating that thing, right? I still want to create it. So it becomes way more playful and lighter, and I come up with better ideas, right? So I find that whenever I do release the attachment, that's when I actually amp up the action, because it isn't attachment that actually drives us. And I think that's one of the misinterpretations, is that we have to be desperate. We have to want it. We have to think about it all the time. We have to focus on it all the time. We have to problem solve it around it all the time in order to create it. And that's just not true, right? All those things don't feel so great, right? So whenever we just know it's done, we believe it's done in our future, and we go about enjoying the process of creating it, enjoying our life now, telling ourselves and reminding ourselves, I'm going to be okay no matter what, with or without this thing. I am good. I create my own happiness. That thing doesn't. You will probably find that you actually take even more action. Okay, the next question is, how do I stay excited about my manifestation without obsessing over them? Okay, so what's very interesting is that if you don't obsess over your manifestation, you will probably find that you are actually more excited about it, because obsessing, the act of obsessing. I always like to think of that as an action. It's like a thought loop. It's an action that we take. It's something that we do is obsess, obsess, obsess. And sometimes it's obsessive thoughts. Sometimes it is checking something over and over. It's constantly looking at it, constantly seeing how much further that we have to go. That is driven by fear. Or by, another word for fear is scarcity, right? That can be driven by fear, by scarcity, or by pressure. So that is not driven by the energy of excitement, right? So two totally different things. There is absolutely a world in which you can stay excited about it without obsessing over it, right? So what I would recommend doing is practice letting go of the obsessing. And the way that you're going to let go of the obsessing is to release attachment to it. Actually, I don't know if I like that. Okay, the next question is, how do I stay excited about my manifestation without obsessing over it? Okay, really great question. Again, I love all of these questions. So excited and obsessing are two different things. Usually when we're obsessing over something, we're not actually excited. They're actually like two totally different things that aren't linked at all. Because obsessing is driven by scarcity, or it's driven by fear, or a lack of belief. That's what we do as an action that is driven by fear. When we're in fear or scarcity, we tend to obsess, or that's one of the actions that we can take. So that has nothing to do with excitement. You can be excited about something and not obsess about it. I mean, think about it. Like if you are on a trip to a vacation of a lifetime and you're so excited and you get on the plane, you know you're going to land there. Your brain is saying, I'm going to land, right? Oh, next stop, Hawaii. Oh, next stop, Europe. Oh, next stop, wherever you're going, New York City, right? You're just thinking next stop is New York City. And you're like, I'm going to chill. I'm going to rest until then. I'm going to watch some movies. I'm going to read a book, whatever you do on the plane, right? But you don't have to obsess about it to know that you're on your way. You're not looking out the window. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, of course not. But you're still in the energy of excitement. You're excited about your trip. So notice how you can be excited about it and not obsess. Same with your manifestation. Obsessing has nothing to do with being excited about it, and it is absolutely possible to stay in excitement or anticipation, readiness, without any obsessing happening, right? And if you do obsess about your manifestation, it probably is because you are attached and you think that that is doing something. You think the obsessing is a way of controlling it, a way of making it happen when it's not. So I would recommend practicing letting go of that habit, whatever you do when you are obsessing, whether it's thought loops, whether it is checking over and over your bank account, checking over and over to see how far you have to go. That habit is not helpful, and it is probably coming from attachment. It's probably coming from neediness. So I would do some of the practices that I give you in this podcast episode and in last week's episode to release the reins, release control, release attachment so that you are not obsessing. Instead, you're in just a knowing, in a belief, in a committed energy. That's going to be much more useful than the obsessing that is driven by scarcity and fear. Oh, and I do have one practice that I like to do whenever I notice that I'm kind of obsessing or thought looping is what I do is I practice going to it is done. So I go to the outcome that I want. So instead of thinking about it over and over, what I do is I direct my brain to think about the me who has it, right? So I go to, for example, let's say I'm doing a launch or something like that, right? I will go to the vision of me 2 days after the launch, and I will do a visualization where I see myself smiling. I see myself happy. I see myself feeling abundant. I see myself so proud of myself. So I go to the wanted outcome and I take my brain there. So that's a really good practice if you notice yourself obsessing is drop the thought, drop the energy, and go to the wanted outcome. Go to visualizing it done, visualizing the wanted outcome. That will be a game changer. And you can stay excited about it. All right. Next question is, what if I feel disappointed when my manifestation doesn't happen on my timeline? Oh my gosh, my friend. You know what? I would say let yourself be human. Let yourself process that disappointment. Of course, like anyone who wanted something to happen on their timeline and it doesn't is probably going to feel disappointed. And that's totally okay. You could practice thinking something like, of course I feel disappointed. I wanted that thing to happen in this timeline. It's totally okay to feel disappointed. And the truth is, doesn't mean it's not happening. Doesn't mean it's not unfolding. Doesn't mean there's not going to be better timing for this thing, right? So it's really about processing the disappointment and then from there choosing the story that you want to tell about this thing on purpose. And oftentimes the story that I tell is it's still in the oven, it's still baking, it's on its way. There's going to be a even better time for this to manifest, or there's more for me to learn around this and I'm learning so much along the way, and it's totally okay because guess what? I create my happiness. This thing doesn't create my happiness. So I say, how can I be happy now? How can I be both happy and disappointed? How can I create my happiness on the journey of this unfolding, right? So again, process the disappointment. Of course you're feeling that way. You don't have to resist it. Let yourself cry it out. Let yourself feel it and tell yourself, of course I feel disappointed. I wanted it to happen. And here's the truth. And that's where you get to tell yourself the story you want to tell on purpose. That of course it's coming. And my favorite thought that I just believe deep in my bones is that everything I deeply desire always manifests. So even if it doesn't happen in the timeline I expected or wanted, it does not mean it's not happening. My thought is, I know it's on its way. There's no way it's not happening. There's no way. And I'm going to enjoy the journey of creating it. So that's my suggestion. Okay, the next question is, how do I trust that something better is coming if my manifestation doesn't work out? Well, that, my friend, is a decision you make. You have to decide to trust that something even better is coming. And what that means is that you may have to hold space for uncertainty, right? Which is a huge part of the manifestation process, is holding space for uncertainty. Because we're never going to be certain of anything. We're never going to be certain of how, but we have to just trust and hold the vision and tell ourselves something better is happening. There's a reason it didn't happen right now. I don't know why. I don't know how. It does not make sense in terms of the context of what I know now. But what I know for sure is that future me is going to understand this whole thing and why this all played out in the way that it did. Right? So we have to just decide and really hold space for our feelings, hold space for the disappointment that it didn't work out in this time frame, right? You can let yourself still be human, but you have to just decide to trust and believe that something better is happening, because that is a belief that you get to hold, right? You get to hang on to, right? So you just got to decide to hang on to that belief that something even better is on its way, right? And that I can't see the how, I can't see why, it's not making sense. It doesn't have to make sense. My future self will understand it. That's how I always think about it is, gosh, the me in 10 years, it'll all make sense, right? To that version of me. But for right now, I have no idea, and I'll be okay with that. I'm going to hold space for that uncertainty. And the next question is, how do I let go without giving up? Okay. Really good question, because they're two different things. How do I let go without giving up? And it's kind of similar to what I touched on around, the question that was, if I let go of attachment, do I stop taking action? And it's like, no, it's two totally different things. So letting go or releasing attachment is different from giving up. The energy of that I like to think of as giving up is stopping it, letting go of moving towards that thing. It's deciding it's not for us. It's completing it completely, right? That's how I think of giving up is I'm completing this, right? It's like shutting the door to it. Whereas non-attachment and releasing attachment, you're still leaving that window open. You're still leaving the door open. You're still moving towards that thing, but you're no longer telling yourself, I'm only going to be okay once I have that thing. You're no longer telling yourself, I have to control every move in order to create that thing. So the door's still open, the window's still open, you're still creating it, you're still manifesting it, but not from a place of neediness and desperation and pressure. You're doing it from a place of openness. You're doing it from a place of committed. You're doing it from a place of desire, of excitement, of anticipation, of fun, of moving towards that thing, right? So you're still moving towards it. You're not giving up. The door's still open. It's still on its way, but you're doing it from a different place. And what's really interesting is I have this knowing, and this, you could call it a belief, but it's a belief that I know so deeply within me that I call it a knowing. And that is that the things that my soul desires most, I am going to move towards. I don't have to use willpower and control and try to make it happen to move towards it. And when I let go of the illusion that I have to try and control it and use all my willpower and fight for it really hard, when I let go of that, what I notice is that I naturally start moving towards it. Just naturally, on my own. It's like the difference between rowing upstream versus I let go of the oars. Is that what they're called? Right? And I know this is an Abraham Hicks thing, right? You let go of the oars, and what starts to happen? You just start moving downstream. So you move, but without trying so hard, right? So non-attachment and letting go is not giving up. Right? If you think of it, you're still going to be moving down the stream, but it's not going to take so much effort and heavy energy and trying. You will notice that when you do release it and you let go of that attachment, it feels so different. You'll be taking actions from a natural place, from a desire place, right? And I think leaning into that belief and that knowing has really changed my life because I don't feel like I have to fight for everything anymore, right? I just know that like if something is meant for me and if I desire it deep in my soul and if I claimed it, I'm gonna move towards it. It's happening. Right? I don't have to try so hard. I can let go and allow. I can let go and commit to it. I can let go and playfully move towards it and say, what is the path of least resistance? What's the easiest route there? What would be fun? What would be an awesome way to create this thing? That's a very different energy than I have to and being attached and being in scarcity and urgency and hustle. That's so different, right? So I hope that helps explain the difference between giving up and letting go. Different things, right? So again, like if you were to think of it like giving up is closing the door, letting go is keeping that door open, but letting go of like trying to force it. So that's the difference. Okay, next question is what practical steps can I take to detach emotionally while staying aligned with my desires? Okay, fantastic question. And I would use that practice that I gave you in the last episode, which was choosing happiness no matter what. So figure out how you will be happy with it and how you will be happy without it. That's a really practical exercise that you can do so that you can stop telling yourself, I need this thing. It has to happen. It's got to happen. And you place so much emphasis on it. And I want to give you actually an example of how I used this in my life with one of the manifestations that really, I would say, was one of the most challenging, that took me the longest to get. And it was because for so much of my life, I was so attached. So for example, I struggled with my weight for most of my life, from the age of about 11 to about 31, 32, something like that, around those ages. And so that was a long time. And that whole time, I had always wanted to lose weight. I was always in wanting. I really didn't use like the word manifesting weight loss, but I really wanted to lose weight. And I would have this vision and I would have this goal of losing weight. Let me wait till Millie. And I really, really wanted it. And I really, really wanted it, right? And I would try and I would try and I would do these diets and all of these different things. But all the time, I would always be thinking, I'm going to be happier once I lose weight. I'm going to feel confident once I lose weight. I am going to feel so much better about myself once I lose weight. So I put so much pressure, so much emphasis. There was so much attachment on that it never really manifested. And even if I did lose weight, I would gain it back plus some, right? Because I was so attached to that was so important, right? I placed so much importance on it. I thought that everything would be better if I just lost weight. And I finally realized, because I hired a body image coach, because I finally realized, wait a minute, I don't think the problem is the weight. I was like, I think I just need to be happy in my body as it is. Because I realized no matter what, I was never happy in my body. Even when I did lose the weight, right? And like I said, I would lose the weight and gain it back. But even whenever I would lose it, I was still never happy. I still never felt like it was enough. So I realized this must be a deeper thing here. So I was like, okay, I want to learn to just be happy in my body. That's all I want to learn. In the body that I'm in, even though that felt like the hardest thing in the world because it was when I was at my heaviest and I had a lot of symptoms from a medical condition that I have. And I realized like the way that I had been approaching it up until then wasn't working, which was trying really hard, always focusing on it, always thinking about it, always obsessing about it, always in some kind of drama in my head about it. It wasn't working. So I hired a body image coach, and the work that we did was to stop trying to lose weight and instead just start being okay with the body that I had now. So I did tons of different things to work on that. I started taking pictures of myself. I started noticing the thoughts that I had about my body. I went on a whole journey, which was basically releasing the attachment to losing weight and releasing the attachment to needing my body to be different to be okay with myself, right? And I went on that journey. I completely released attachment around it. And I honestly just decided that even if I don't lose weight for the rest of my life, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to choose to be happy, and I'm going to choose to be kind to my body. I'm going to choose to dress it how I like it, no matter what my size is. I'm going to choose to show up in full and stop hiding myself just because of my body. And I really let go of needing to lose weight. I completely energetically let that go. And the craziest thing happened. The minute I let go, the desire it wasn't even to lose weight. It was the desire to take care of this precious body of mine. It started activating, and I started losing weight and eating healthier and working out. But it was from a completely different energy. It was not coming from this attached, needy, I need this to be okay energy. I really had let that go because I was like, I'm good. If this is what my size is for the rest of my life, so be it. That's what it is. And so from that place, I just started taking care of myself. I just started wanting to regulate my hormones, and eating healthier became easier because it wasn't from this pressure-filled place. It was from desire to have radiant health. And I decided that, you know what, I did want to lose the weight, but from a different place, from a place of love, from a place of managing my hormones and symptoms, from a place of, it can take as long as it needs to take. Even if it takes me the rest of my life, I'm going to lose, the weight that I need to lose to kind of balance out my hormones. But I wasn't in a rush. It wasn't urgent, and it wasn't dramatic. And if I ate something that was not in alignment with weight loss, I didn't make a big deal of it because I knew I was going to do it, even if it took me the rest of my life. So you notice here how when I let go of that attachment to needing it, I actually started moving naturally, right? And I started aligning with that desire from a completely different place, not from a needy place. So that's what you want to ask yourself is, how can I align with my desire, but from an empowering, exciting place that's completely different? And sometimes it does take working on the attachment first and letting go in order for the aligned way of looking at it to arise. So that is my suggestion. Is what I would do is work on releasing the attachment first, work on being okay with or without it, really showing yourself that you're going to be safe no matter what, you're going to be secure no matter what, you're going to be good no matter what, showing yourself that there is abundance now. And then from that place, you will probably notice that a more aligned way of creating that thing will arise within you, that it doesn't feel like pressure, it doesn't feel heavy, and all of those other things. So that's my suggestion. And it's so wild because I have seen this happen so many times with so many of my different desires that when I release the attachment to it and the control and the neediness to it, a way of creating it aligns, it shows up that feels way more aligned and feels like I can breathe, and it feels way more playful and way more fun. So don't think that if you let go, it's not going to happen. If you let go, it's probably going to happen with much more ease. So, all right, those are the questions that came in, and I just hope this was helpful. If you're open to it, I would absolutely love it if you would leave a rating and review, hopefully 5 stars. That makes a huge difference, and it just helps get this podcast out into the world to more and more people. So please spread the love. Please spread the abundance if you're open to it. I would so appreciate it. And as always, come connect with me on Instagram at JamieBerman_, and feel free to send me a DM or a message. I love connecting with all of you. And if something in this episode was helpful, let me know, right? And if you have questions, feel free to submit them. Send me your questions, and I would love to do another Q&A episode in the future. All right, my friends, happy manifesting.